Welcome to This Week in Guns, a podcast that covers commentary on the latest firearms news, information, and buzz, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your host, Jake Challen from Gun Guy Radio, and you make this show possible. That's right, you simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. And we have a small but sweet panel this week. We have Adam Kraut, Esquire, returning from Prince Law Offices, Firearms Industry Consulting Group, blogging, YouTubing, everything. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Jake. How are you?
Doing great. And Nate Murr, B5 Systems grip stop inventor and writer for Reach Bang Clear and Recoil Magazine. Marine veteran, sniper, all of the above. Hey, Nate.
Hey, how's it going, Jake? Good to be back on.
Great to have you guys on the show. This might be a little bit shorter of a program this week because we can get through all the stories without any shenanigans.
Pretty bold statement there, but okay.
Challenge accepted.
Announcement, Bullpup Shoot 2015 is coming to northern Illinois, just about 85, 90 miles west of Chicagoland, out in Mount Carroll, Illinois. So check it out, bullpupshoot.com. The Firearms Radio Network and several of the personalities will be there. And hope to see you out there, shoot some cool guns. That's going to be September 19th, so that's coming up here really quick. So check it out, bullpupshoot.com. Make your plans now. Patriot Patch Company helps make this episode possible. You can check out our Huckleberry Patch pre-order, which is coming to an end. So hurry up, get your order in at patriotpatch.co. And also the Firearms Radio Network t-shirt pre-order is coming to an end too. Very cool Firearms Radio Network t-shirts. You can pick black or orange. And you can even pick which side of the shirt you want the logo on. So, patriotpatch.co. Let's get to the top stories this evening. New figures show almost 800,000 suppressors are in circulation. Gun silencer sales are booming, says the companion article.
Which is great. It's good news. It's good news. It means that there's going to be more Class 3 owners out there helping support the Second Amendment and supporting Class 3 weapon ownership. So that's more advocates, that's more hats in the ring. That's a good thing. For me, I don't think it's like a baffling thing. Like, here Maxim came up with the first sound suppressor in 1908, I want to say, is when he got his patent for the first silencer to be sold in America. So since 1908, the technology's been there. The desire has been there to reduce the muzzle blast of firearms. Like, I always said that, you know, if silencers were invented tomorrow, OSHA would be all over that. OSHA would probably make it like a requirement that you can't sell a gun without right. a silencer. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an impressive number, but, you know, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that's still pretty small in comparison to how many bolt-action 22s got sold in the last 10 years, you know, or other firearms-related things.
So, go ahead, Adam, and then
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. You were in the middle of a sentence. You go. I'll go after you.
Well, so there's a chart here on guns.com, and it covers not just suppressors, but any other weapon, full auto, short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotguns, and it compares the numbers from 2014 and 2015. Now, suppressors have jumped, you know, a pretty impressive amount here. You know. 792,000, and then you take that in comparison to 571, so that's 221,000 more suppressors in the marketplace in just 1 year. Did you do my math right there?
Yeah, I don't math so good, but it sounds right. Sounds believable.
I went to law school because I wasn't good at math, so.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, you have more and more silencer companies coming out with new and innovative products, you know, and then the existing silencer companies that we have, companies like Silencer Co. and Gemtech and others, the ones that are established, they've been around for for a little while, they're only growing in size to meet the demand. So, it's an industry of its own. With metallurgy changing and design, we have 3D printers and we have SolidWorks and everything that we can design better and more efficient designs than what we even had 10 years ago. So performance is getting better and price is coming down, and people who would maybe never would have purchased a silencer before, they're looking at it.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam, with your thought, and then I wanted to fill in on a couple of these other numbers.
Sure. So one of the interesting things towards the bottom of the article is the senior vice president and general counsel of the National Shooting Sports Foundation is saying that as more people realize the benefits of them, the popularity will continue to grow. Then he goes on to say that the growth would be even greater if suppressors were handled like other firearms without the additional paperwork and regulation as required by the NFA. The thing I hear most, and I read most on forums, is people saying, well, ATF needs to reduce the regulations, and unfortunately, you got to go to Congress for that, because it's in a statute. It's not a regulation that controls the National Firearms Act and the fact that silencers are part of it. It is interesting to see the increase in it. The shop, since I've been there, I've seen a number of people coming in buying silencers for the first time. It's interesting how also Americans have a very different view than what I understand our European counterparts do, where over there it's the polite thing to own a silencer. You don't bother your neighbor, and as Nate said, if this were invented tomorrow, OSHA, absolutely would be all over it as a requirement.
So one of my thoughts here is that the acceptance and the increased sales and the awareness of silencers, and what an amazing job it does at reducing sound and making shooting more pleasurable and everything, and safer for hearing. Going back to last week, we were talking about how the internet I really think has brought the firearms community and industry in a real positive direction and really given us momentum. And I think it has done the same here for suppressors, because you can hop on YouTube and see hundreds of videos of all these different suppressors, and you get that real-time visual and audible feedback, whereas 15, 20 years ago, someone just talking about them would be like, yeah, sure, yeah, it makes it a little quieter, whatever.
Well, there's I agree with you, just how the internet has kind of brought gun owners together, and it keeps everybody abreast of what's going on politically. What Adam was just saying about the way that Europeans view sound suppressors and the way Americans view it. I think there's a thing because they were so heavily regulated, for the last 100 years, that people in America, some people still view silencers as the tool of an assassin. They vilify the sound suppressor. Why do you need a quiet gun? Well, why do I need hearing loss? It's the wrong angle that the anti-gunners take, I think, or it's the angle that they take to try to vilify, firearm owners as a whole. But I look at I understand what I was also saying about people want sound suppressors taken off the registry, taken off and basically make them no longer a Class 3 weapon. I agree with that, but getting that change would, it's going to be a tough battle for that. I think it's interesting that the reason why the NFA came around in the first place had a lot to do with prohibition, and it had a lot to do with organized crime. It had a lot to do with the Al Capone type guys buying Tommy guns mail order. The silencers were only added to the NFA because somebody was worried about poaching. Because of the severe economic conditions of America at the time, a lot of people were poaching. So well, we should put these silencer thingies on there too. Not so much because of the crime angle, but because of, I guess poaching is a crime, but not because of murder or organized crime. It was more because they didn't want poachers to be able to hide their presence as easy. So, I think it's an obsolete thing, and it's an obsolete law. I think it's something that needs to change. I would love to see that change in my lifetime, but, like Adam said, that's going to be a tough thing to do. People don't realize how hard it will be to do that.
And then the other problem you run into is, once you open the door for change, it's not necessarily the direction you want it to go either. So everybody seems to forget that little tidbit. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not we see any kind of change one way or another in our lifetimes. We're certainly seeing a more common acceptance of that stuff, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think associations like there's a young lawyer, Knox Williams, I believe the guy's name is, that runs the American Silencer Association. I know, he's probably about your age, Adam. He's a young lawyer, and he's like one of the most ferocious supporters of silencer-related laws. Like he's the guy that's like tracking it and helping unify the industry, the manufacturers. I remember, I think it was SHOT Show this past year. I had a meeting with him very briefly, but he was sitting down with like 10 of the top manufacturers of sound suppressors in America. Like the companies are unifying because it's like, well, yeah, you're my competition as far as products, but if we don't band together to help fight any future restrictions or any more oppressive laws, then we're all going to lose. And I like that. I like that companies are coming together, unifying to help each other, to help us, the consumer, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen the American Suppressor Association and companies like Silencer Co. really take legislation, to the next level. Because just in the last year of doing this show, I think we've added like 3 states, maybe even more than that.
Vermont and I think it was Minnesota were within the last month and a half, I want to say.
Yeah, so I believe we're up to like 40 state legal now, or
41,
something.
I think,
Or
something like that.
Yeah.
And you have more and more states. I think Florida this past year was one of the states that allows hunting with silencers now, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
you have more and more states saying like, hey, it's okay, it's a perfectly normal thing. If anything, it actually helps conservation because you're trying to shoot this one particular animal, you're trying to kill this one deer. You don't want to scare the rest of the herd all across the countryside. So in a way, it plays into conservation and hunting. Silencer Co. came out with the Salvo 12, which was the first viable shotgun suppressor last year, and I know that unit's been selling really well for them. But that's something that's hunting related. That's going to bring the guys that don't necessarily care about the black rifles. They only really care about hunting style guns. It's going to bring them over to the Class 3 crowd, and we're going to gain supporters. I mean, a lot of exciting things are happening. And like you said, Jake, like in this past year alone, there's been a lot of good changes, positive changes, and hopefully that continues to move forward. That continues to only grow in number.
Absolutely. So one other thing I want to say about this chart before we move to the next story is that the full auto category here has grown 30,000 full auto items since 2014. Now, are those...
They'd be post samples.
Yeah, are those dealer samples?
They all get added to the registry. No matter what it is, it gets added to the registry.
Okay.
So
So
it's not all of a sudden all these transferables showing up out of nowhere.
Well, maybe part of it is that though. Most transferable machine guns are extremely expensive, but if you have older guys who collected back in the 50s and 60s, like it seems to me like most of the people that have money for 1 or 2 machine guns generally have enough money for a lot of machine guns, and they usually become collectors and they have a large estate. I mean, I've seen some pretty impressive machine gun collections personally in my life, in private ownership, that once those older gentlemen passed away, their wives just sold off like literally millions of dollars worth of machine guns that they weren't in circulation until that owner passed away and the family decided to sell the collection. So that transfer, because the chart's about transfers, not necessarily.
It's about registered items. So
yeah.
It's going to be new creations. It's not going to be transfers of existing stuff.
So it's only brand new. Okay, I misinterpreted that.
No. I mean, it's currently what exists, I believe, in the registry. So in the registry total, they were saying in 2015, whenever this was taken, from the way I'm reading the chart, what the title is, there's 792,282 silencers in the registry as a whole.
Okay. See, that's why we have you on here, Adam. That's why you
That's
come in
why
handy.
to figure out bar graphs.
Figure out bar graphs. Hey, you pass the bar, you can read a bar.
So there's been an alert issued by the FBI warning of Middle Eastern males approaching families of military. The Denver division of the FBI issued an alert to law enforcement in Colorado and Wyoming over suspicious behavior from Middle Eastern males who have approached military families, members of military personnel in recent weeks. And then this is on the blaze.com. We actually have a link to it where you can see the actual bulletin. It says, on numerous occasions, family and military personnel have been confronted by Middle Eastern males in front of their homes. Alert said the males have attempted to obtain personal information about the military men's family through intimidation. This is pretty messed up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you prevent it either, unfortunately. Especially because if you go into any of the areas I've been in, and Nate would know better than I, but if you're near a military base, it's fairly evident where the military housing is, even off base, unless, from what I've seen anyway, they tend to live in clusters. So I don't know how you would stop that, and whether or not it truly is more than what it appears at face value or not, I don't know. But I have a feeling if the FBI is issuing an alert about it and it's happened more than one time, there's probably something to it. But
I mean, this has happened off and on over the course of global war and terror. Like, this isn't like new, completely new thing to me. Anytime there's suspicious activity, particularly when it comes to military families, you know, the feds usually get involved pretty fast to investigate that. And I mean, I honestly believe that has helped prevent tragedies, specifically, you know, attacks specifically targeted towards military and their families. But at the same time, like, you know, unfortunately, with that attack that happened in Chattanooga, Tennessee, not too long ago, where those servicemen lost their lives, like, that was avoidable. That was avoidable in a couple of different ways, but you know, it's a different mindset now. Like, to me, it's like if you have somebody that's considering attacking military and their families, that's a pretty brazen thing to do. That's, you know, you gotta have some brass ones to even consider that. And it says to me that you're not uncomfortable enough to maybe think that's a really, really bad idea, or that you're probably going to end in failure instead of success. If people are putting feelers out and starting to do these hinky things or suspicious things around military and their families, I mean, that's something to take note. That's saying that, hey, they think that they can pull it off. They can potentially do something harmful to those families and those servicemen. So to me, it's like they're not scared enough. Like, I think maybe we need to put the fear back in them. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting that you say it's not a new thing to you. So what do you think they're trying to do here? What type of information do you think they're trying to gather?
Military switched over. Like, for years, like, we had used our social security numbers instead of a service number, and that's something that's changed. But a part of it was, you know, like Adam said, like, military bases, it's pretty obvious who's in the military and who's not, who's there. I mean, the town outside base is pretty much a military town where families live and people support the guys at that base. But I mean, it's a lot of stuff that can be gathered from that. It could be something as malicious as just singling out servicemen, maybe, you know, servicemen that are in elite units or specialized units that they're really hard guys to replace. They have special knowledge. Maybe they have top secret knowledge. I mean, kidnapping or murder, just those types of dudes, it'd be a bad thing. You know, I don't want to give any ideas to any bad guys out there, but it could be something as simple as just waiting till there's a group of guys together and formulating some sort of attack plan. It could be something as simple as, you know, gathering information for troop movement, like what units deploying and where they're going, and like, oh, so I see your husband's in the army. A guy could walk up to a housewife and the grocery store and start chatting her up about her husband's unit and when he's deploying. That information can be used to, they can be used against us downrange overseas. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, operational security and personal security, two things that everybody in the military should exercise. I wonder, it seems like in the last couple of years, guys have kind of drifted away from that mindset that, loose lips do sink ships. What you post on social media, what you tell a stranger out in town could potentially turn around to hurt you or your brothers and sisters in uniform. So, I mean, it could be any number of things. It's not a positive thing. It's not a good thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, pretty scary, man. New York reaches settlement with toy gun sellers. Retailers such as Walmart, Sears, and Amazon have agreed to halt sales of realistic, I'm doing air quotes here, looking toy guns in New York and pay over $300,000 in penalties.
That one's an interesting one. So when I was down at the Import-Export conference with my boss, this is the life of a lawyer here, right? So we're back in the hotel room, and he's on his iPad, and he goes, "Oh, this is interesting," and tells me about this federal statute. And actually, what it has to do with is, and I think it was because of an article about this, penalties for entering into commerce of imitation firearms. It's 15 U.S.C. section 5001 for anybody who's interested in going looking at it later. But one of the things it does is it makes it unlawful for it. The provisions of the section supersede any provision of state or local laws or ordinances which provide for markings or identification inconsistent with provisions of the section, provided that no state shall. And then there's some other criteria, but it looks like, reading it now, and I hadn't read it since earlier this week, it was for anything that was any kind of gun that was developed prior to 1898 or a traditional BB gun, paintball gun, or pellet firing gun. So I don't know if any of the toy guns in this will fall under that, but if so, it would be interesting whether or not anybody raised that issue. As far as what New York's law, I mean, we're dealing with the state that, has the SAFE Act. I got nothing.
I think a big part of this, Adam, was like they're saying about like stores like Walmart and Amazon and Sears that they've been selling guns, toy guns, like toys, like non-firing, not pellet guns, just toy guns that are realistic looking, that violate New York's code of what a toy gun's allowed to be, and that they're seeking like $300,000 in penalties from those merchants for violating that law. And I guess a part of it would be that a lot of those sales were online sales, so it's kind of like people in New York maybe not realizing that, oh, I can't find a toy gun for my kid at the local store because maybe the local vendor doesn't knows that they can't sell that in New York because it doesn't meet the criteria, so they go online and they purchase it online and thus violate the state law.
No, I got you. I see.
So it seems like they're seeking damages. The state itself is seeking damages.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But
well, we've been talking about the toy gun loophole for how long here?
The toy gun loophole? Is that like the gun show loophole? No background check?
So, yeah, New York apparently restricts the sale or prohibits the sale of any toy guns that are black, blue, silver, or aluminum in color. Or, I guess, makeup.
So anything that looks like a gun.
Yeah, it says it requires that imitation guns be brightly colored. So,
it's like last year, last Halloween, last fall, I shaved my beard into like a Wyatt Earp mustache and went as a cowboy because I didn't have a Halloween costume. But I went to Walmart and I bought 2 blaze orange like revolvers, right? And on the packaging, it specifically tells you not to alter the toy guns in color, like not to paint them.
So what did
I go to the checkout aisle. I went to the checkout aisle with 2 toy revolvers and a can of black spray paint. Yeah, I'm like, you're not the boss of me. I do what I want. Like, I'm not breaking federal law here. It's ridiculous.
I have a confession to make. I have wanted to launch a website selling toy guns, like specifically the cap guns. You can't find those anymore. and you can't find the caps for them anymore. And this kind of just makes me want to do it even more, just to thumb my nose at states like New York and all this nonsense. Where Amazon's not even selling toy guns to New York anymore. I mean, come on.
I mean, I can kind of understand some aspects of it where it's like, if you buy a gun that's super realistic, then adults might buy them just to rob, bodegas and corner stores and that kind of stuff. Or, in high crime areas where if you have kids running around like teenagers with super realistic looking guns, that makes law enforcement officers' jobs a lot harder. Because, like, we're talking about fractions of seconds to make a decision whether or not to pull a trigger on, a shadowy figure in the alleyway with a is it a real gun? Is it a toy gun? I mean, I understand that aspect of it, but to go as far as to completely ban, ban types of toy guns is just ridiculous.
Well, I know, and when we were kids, I mean, like almost all the guns looked real back then, and we didn't have this big national discussion about how all toy guns shouldn't look real and all that.
I remember being a kid, and I would specifically want the toy guns that looked the most real. Like, I had this sick MP5. It was like dead on, like dead replica of an MP5. It was like my favorite toy gun. But like, you can't find that anymore. It doesn't exist. You get buy like an airsoft one.
You get the wooden guns now that that's it. The ones that shoot the rubber bands with the black spinny wheel on it.
Yeah, that's all fun until somebody gets a splinter off a wood gun. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Navy confirmed sailor who shot at Chattanooga gunman will not be charged. So,
is good the appropriate response to this? Is there anything else to say about that?
So Timothy White used his personal weapon to fire at gunman Muhammad Alvarez, despite claims from several news outlets and bloggers. The Navy will not press charges against White for illegally discharging his weapon at a military recruitment center. So was this guy was at the recruitment center?
I believe this was the officer. I believe he was a naval officer, wasn't he?
Okay.
Yeah, it was Lieutenant Commander Timothy White, right? So he illegally discharged a firearm on federal property, right? So the thing is, like, here you are, a dude literally fighting for his life and the life of his sailors in his proximity, the life of a fellow American servicemen who were defenseless because they did not have issued firearms because, recruiting centers, they just don't have issued firearms. They don't have an armory. They don't have a way of keeping track of it. So instead of figuring out a system where our guys can still be protected, they say, you know what, no, you're in federal. It still counts as federal property, and you cannot have concealed firearms or any firearms on federal property that aren't registered with basically military police. So this lieutenant commander, good on him, chose to have his personal weapon, probably knowingly violating federal law. But for all we know, that made a difference. Like, at the very least, he was able to fight back. He had the ability to fight back. And maybe if he would not have had that ability, if he had not violated that lawful order, that federal law, maybe there'd be more dead sailors, there'd be more dead Marines. Who knows? But I saw this pop up in the news like earlier in the week where they were talking the Navy was going to press charges and the guy was going to lose his commission as an officer, and there's talk about a court-martial and all kinds. Basically, like, his career is done. Like, as a sailor, as an officer, his career is over. And even with them not pressing charges, his career is over. The dude got attacked, and he fought back, and regardless, he's going to be punished for it. Like, I seriously doubt that he will be a naval officer for much longer. Like, they'll probably allow him to resign his commission or for him to leave, but he's not going to be a sailor for much longer. I can tell you that. And it's asinine. It's completely asinine to think that a sailor, a uniformed member of the armed forces fighting back to save his life and the life of his fellow servicemen, that it would even be considered, that somebody would even consider punishing him for doing the right thing. And that's exactly what he did. He did the right thing.
So looks like I lost a story here, but it looked like the powers to be have given permission for who's ever in charge of giving the okay for members to carry on, places like recruitment centers, that they can give that okay now.
I had not seen that story, but if that's true, that's a huge step forward. That's a really big deal. I mean, like, I look at when I was in recruiting duty, like, I knew I wasn't allowed to have my firearm, so I had to keep my firearm out my personal vehicle on public property, which was not federal property. So while in the office in uniform, there's no. And here's the thing, because like, if you're gonna say I can't have a firearm for self-protection, then I expect there to be other dudes there with firearms to protect me. I expect to have that. But that's the thing is, and that's what a gun-free zone is it's completely gun-free. Most of them are free of anybody. There's no good guys with guns there to protect you. So I don't know, it's stupid. I mean, like, the idea that they would even consider charging that sailor, that naval officer, the idea that, like, it's 2015 and that a recruiting center is a gun-free zone. The idea that you can trust these servicemen with tanks and cruise missiles, fighter planes, grenades, rocket launchers, but you can't trust them with a personally owned 9mm handgun. That's, I don't know. It's something that obviously I'm very passionate about, which is protecting our servicemen. I just don't want to see something like this happen again. And how many times have we had base shootings in the last couple of years? We had that guy that went with Philadelphia Naval Yard? The guy who went with a shotgun, started shooting. You had the Fort Hood incident a couple years ago. I mean, like, there's enough cases where people have come onto military bases or in places like specifically targeting servicemen, knowing that they want to have firearms, and that military police were minutes away, where they could do a mass shooting, or they could inflict harm to those servicemen specifically, knowing that they can't fight back. So it's like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to make a law? Well, if we're going to make a law, let's make a law that says that our guys can defend themselves. Let's change the law where they can't have a personal firearm, or they're not, give them the means of protecting themselves, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe the article I saw was about another state allowing the National Guard. Because I cannot, for the life of me, maybe I dreamt it. I don't know. It's been a long week.
It's a good idea regardless, even if it isn't like a real thing. I wish it was.
So, L.A., well, no, I'm going too far here. Gun used in terror attack at Mohammed cartoon contest. Turns out, after all, it was sold during Operation Fast and Furious. Oops.
Fast and Furious strikes again.
Leave it to the government to screw something else up again. Same thing, actually. I guess there's some question. I mean, there's no question that was sold during the time period of Fast and Furious. I guess the question is whether or not it was told to walk during it. And of course, FBI isn't releasing any information. Continues to stonewall any kind of stuff coming out of there. The article had a correspondence between Kate Palvich and I guess ATF, where she had asked them some questions, or they sent her I guess an email asking her to retract some statements that she made about it being involved in Fast and Furious, and she responded with, "Be happy to do so." Just asked a few questions, to which the DOJ didn't really give them very much information to go on. So it's an interesting article, and again, it just continues to show that the government isn't releasing information about this, even though there was a congressional investigation into it, and I believe Eric Holder was held in contempt over it.
Yeah, so since I posted this, the ATF is now denying it. There's some other articles linked to it in the bottom of this one, but I don't know. Can you trust them? I mean, the ATF did the whole. It was their idea to do the whole Fast and Furious thing. So now they're denying. They're like, oh no, this isn't one of the. This is not the gun you're looking for.
The thing is, it's going to happen again. Like, it was such a massive number of guns that move through Fast and Furious that I guarantee there will be more crimes that pop up in the future where firearms that were
Years from now. It could
yeah,
be
for
years from now.
years. Like the thing is, the plan was flawed before they even executed it. It was a terrible, terrible plan that they thought was going to work swimmingly, and it was the exact opposite. And now you have basically guns given to the cartels. You have guns given to the bad guys. Like it would have been a lot harder for those individuals to acquire those guns if the federal government hadn't given them directly to them.
Yeah, absolutely. North Carolina County bans open carry on county-owned property. Cumberland County supervisors this week passed an ordinance that would prohibit the open carry of firearms at the county courthouse, library, and recreational areas. So heads up if you're around Cumberland County, North Carolina.
So that would be what? That would be this a local law, Adam? If the state has open carry, but the county is saying that's a no-go, how does that break down?
Well, the county's saying it's a no-go just on those county properties. I guess I think Adam stepped away here, so I'll play lawyer. I guess it totally depends on North Carolina law, because some states will have preemption laws where the municipalities and smaller parts of the state cannot make laws of their own, but apparently North Carolina doesn't have that. But it looks like it's not. It looks like it's a $500 fine. I'm not seeing where it says that it's like a felony or misdemeanor.
A misdemeanor, yeah.
Like in Illinois, like anything's a felony, Like automatic felony. Oops, you drove over here. So there definitely.
I wonder what happened in that county to spur that change. Like if they had some sort of incident with somebody open carrying or.
In the article it has there was an incident last month where a soldier stationed at Bragg carried his privately owned rifle into an area mall to have his portrait taken. Apparently people didn't really respond all that favorably to that.
Yeah, but usually it's more than just one incident. Usually it's a couple of different things before they start jumping to conclusions like that. I don't know. Maybe there's been a series of things, but
yeah, it's possible.
Just more knee-jerk reactions. So, Guns America sponsorship was blurred out in the World Extreme Cage Fighters show last. It was on MSG Plus, which I don't know. I don't know anything about fighting. You guys know anything about what's MSG stand for?
Yeah, you're
I have no idea.
So anyways, this fighter, basically, he's got GunsAmerica.com right across his crotch, which is kind of funny. But that was blurred out, like the whole fight. So, yeah, more anti-gun.
The funny thing is, like, if they blurred it out and people were watching it and they didn't understand why it was being blurred out, and the logo's right across the dude's crotch. I wonder if is there a video for this? Is there a video link? Oh, I don't see a video link. That would be hilarious to watch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like was it the Daily Show or like one of the night comedy shows that like unnecessary censoring, where they put the black bars or they bleep things that don't need to be bleeped, and it makes it into something dirty.
Well, it's sad, but that's the idea here. They're making guns into something dirty that aren't dirty. I mean, that's the same thing with the toy guns here. They're making them into something dirty, but they're not dirty. It's all about they're trying to force this perspective on us, as viewers and on our kids who play with guns. That this is bad, this is evil. when
That's
it's
what I'm saying.
not.
Like vilifying inanimate objects, like vilifying things like firearms. Like our culture is so like steeped in guns. Like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for firearms. So, like firearms were a critical tool of American survival since the time that the first settlers started coming over, right? But it's like, look at every Hollywood blockbuster. Like that film that Sean Penn did. Like Sean Penn's one of the most anti-gun actors out there, extremely open about being anti-gun, but he's still making his millions playing a character that needs firearms to accomplish his mission or whatever it is. It's like the hypocrisy of it. So it's funny, like one little element could be like, oh, guns are bad and we need to vilify guns, but it doesn't change the fact that there's so many other avenues that we show that guns aren't bad. Or, Hollywood exploits guns just to make money, but, if you took all the guns in the world and threw it in Marietta Trench tomorrow, what would Hollywood do? Do you like The Notebook? Because there's going to be a lot of movies like that coming out. It's going to be nothing but romantic comedies from here on out if guns went away. I don't think I want... Adam, you don't want that, right, Jake? Nobody wants that. So if anything, we need to fight harder for the Second Amendment just so we don't get trapped in a world where there's no action films.
Absolutely. I just shivered. North Randall police officer charged with selling firearms to felons. A police officer in the village of North Randall, I think this is in Ohio, said the FBI said that he sold firearms to felons and shot his service weapon at a wall during a fight in which he was wearing his police uniform. Okay.
Oh man, I guess you just can't fix stupid. He knew that they were prohibited people, and then apparently got into the whole discharging the firearm against the wall was because they got into an argument with one of the gun purchasers.
So, I mean, this just goes to show that the proverbial 10%. Like how this dude ever became a cop in the first place is probably going to be questioned. But like how could you do that as a cop? Like, I can understand law enforcement officers are human beings just like everybody else. They have their own faults. They're human. There's error. Things will happen. But like as a law enforcement officer to sell illegal guns to bad guys, like how is it not in the back of your head that like you're going to sell the gun to the very same criminal and might kill you with it someday? Like you might respond to a call like 2 days later, and the dude shoots you with the gun you sold him. Like this is a level of stupidity that's.
You know who this guy. You know who this guy is. This is that guy in your class, like the worst screwed up guy in your class. That when asked what he wants to be when he grows up, he's like, I want to be a cop. And you're like, what? So shooting and outbreaks were to this section of the show. I'm not sure. I think we're going to cover. Let's go ahead and cover the theater one. Another theater shooting where suspect was armed with a hatchet, airsoft pistol, and he's dead after reported shots fired inside Nashville area movie theater. So this was during the playing of the film Mad Max, and yeah, it looks like this guy was trying to be like the Colorado theater shooter guy who, what did that guy go in? He dressed all up and went in during Batman, right?
Yeah, it was during the Batman. The thing is, like, anybody that wants to go, like, especially in today's culture where people are aware that things like active shooters happen, mass shootings in public places. And, Tennessee is a gun-friendly state, man. There's plenty of concealed firearms being carried on the hips of gentlemen and ladies down in that fine state. So, like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, an airsoft gun is not a deadly weapon. I mean, a hatchet definitely is. But, I mean, it sounds like this is exactly, like, there had to be something wrong with this guy mentally. To think, like, well, why would you ever do that? Like, in a way, it kind of makes less sense than actually having like a real weapon to go in. I mean, it could be a suicide by cop. It could just be a mentally, unstable person. It could be a number of things, but it's such a bizarre story.
Yeah, it's like he wanted to die somewhere along the way. You got to know that you're not coming back out.
Oh, this is great. I'm gonna have to go to Home Depot tomorrow and buy like every hatchet they have before they ban those.
Plan on cutting down a lot of trees.
Yeah, like I mean, if they ban hatchets, then what would an axe be? An axe would be like an assault hatchet. Like nobody needs that much leverage cutting down trees.
Then you can sell them for like you can sell a $7 hatchet for $100.
Pre-ban hatchet.
Oh, I'm so glad those days are over. Like that's the thing is like I'm so terrified right now that like, they're gonna bring something like that back. They're gonna make another push to have another assault weapons ban or a more permanent, more oppressive assault weapons ban than they had before in the 90s and the early 2000s.
So it says they identified him as Vincente Montano. Says he walked into the Carmike Hickory 8 theater just after 1 p.m. Wednesday. He said only 7 other people were in the theater is all. He says this guy pepper sprayed 3 of the people and then wounded 1 man with a hatchet. And then when police responded, he acted threatening toward them shortly before he died. Says he's 29 years old. He was arrested once before in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Had significant mental health issues, and was committed 4 times in 11 years.
Oh,
that explains a lot, actually.
That explains a lot. Confirms my suspicions.
His mom told police 2 days before her son's death that she had not seen him in 2 years.
2 years.
It is unclear why she didn't file a missing person report, or why it took her 2 years to file a missing persons report. Says he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Yeah, real class act. But how are you going to prevent this?
Ban hatchets, right?
He didn't have a real gun, although everyone's crying, we need more gun control still. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So, any of these other shooting outbreak stories you guys want to hit before I move on?
I'm good if you are.
Why? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hit the first politics story here and probably skip the rest. Why the NRA endorsed Republican senators' background check bill. So there's a background check bill introduced here this last week by, I think it was by Senator John Cornyn of Texas. The bill aims to bolster treatment options for mentally ill offenders and response and prevention plans for local officials. So what I really wanted to hit on here is that you're asking why does the NRA want more legislation for this type of thing. It says that the NRA is fighting to stop the Obama administration from denying millions of veterans and Social Security recipients their Second Amendment rights for no reason other than they want assistance in managing their financial affairs, said Chris Cox, Executive Director of NRA's lobbying arm. U.S. Senator John Cornyn said his bill, the Mental Health and Safe Communities Act, would enhance the current gun background check system and bolster local and federal support for mental health treatment and precautions, yet the bill's language was not available at the time of this piece. So, what do you think?
I think that's the important part with what the hell the bill says.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a big red flag here, but it says the reason the NRA is backing this supposedly has language in there to help prevent veterans losing their firearms. just for asking assistance for managing their financial affairs, which apparently has happened in the past.
The thing is, like what Adam just said, it's like it's all about what the bill actually says, or is there going to be trade-offs? Like, here's the thing: it's like, well, we gain one thing, and we protect the veterans and their ability to own firearms, and like there's that aspect of it, but what's the cost of that? If it's like we have to give up more rights than we gain in the process, then it's not worth it. It's not like I'm not a huge fan of compromising in any way when it comes to the Second Amendment or firearms laws or anything even involving veterans, like veteran issues. So, I mean, the NRA's made some questionable decisions and they've backed some questionable things in years past, They haven't always made the right decision, as we're going to be honest, like it's the truth. They haven't always made the best decisions in certain things. So I just, and without reading the bill, I can't say that, this is something that's good or something that's bad. Maybe it's something that, all right, well, we don't lose anything to gain something good. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe we lose a lot to gain very little.
You'd make a terrible politician. You're not going to do anything without reading the bill. Come on. So
I'm saying politician's just another word for crook these days. It doesn't really matter what side of the aisle you're on. You're out for yourself, not for this country. I hate to say it, but that's the way I look at like 99.9% of politicians out there. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. It's a profitable thing. The day that I see a senator or a president make as much money as my local mayor, then I'll start believing that they're actually civil servants, that they're actually there to help their common man. But it's a for-profit enterprise now. So, who knows what kind of behind closed-door deals, what kind of, what other kind of things that we don't know about are connected to this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but I'm just saying, like, anytime it's anything legal or involving politicians, I'm immediately suspicious, for sure. And I don't think I'm wrong to feel that way.
No, you're not.
I've been hurt, let down, and betrayed too many times to feel different.
Well, I think that's a big reason why we need term limits. There's no reason they need to be in there as long as they are.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Like career politicians. It's like being a career criminal.
Amazon, you can now contribute to the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping with our Amazon affiliate link simply by clicking through our Amazon banners on thisweekinguns.com or bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And I just want to thank everyone who's been doing that. It's really awesome. It really helps keep the network going. It's actually the biggest thing going right now that helps keep the Firearms Radio Network on air. So thank you. So if you aren't currently supporting through the Amazon affiliate link, just look for those Amazon banners on our websites. We are to the full auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about, and other crazy stuff. This is where each of us, the hosts, pick a story to call our own. Who's ready?
I'll go first with this one because this is just this one blows my mind. Two
it.
arrested after meth lab remnants found in Iowa Taco Bell. Who the hell puts a meth lab in a Taco Bell? That's incredible. Apparently, the Cedar Rapids Police Department officers found two men outside the restaurant early on Tuesday. One identified himself as a Taco Bell employee. They entered the closed restaurant and found meth lab remnants in a utility area. So I wonder if they were cooking meth only when the restaurant was closed, or if they were cooking meth while the restaurant was also open. One guy was 31, the other was 56. They were both arrested and charged with conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamines.
Those are the best tacos ever.
Well, the best part is the Taco Bell says in a statement that one of the men who was an employee, who's now fired, quote, "Both we and our franchisee find this completely unacceptable," end quote. Yeah, really? Completely unacceptable? It's just, that's pretty ballsy to use your somebody's restaurant as a meth lab.
Yeah, that's like yeah, Breaking Bad level. That's
It's a little worse than that.
yeah. I don't know. They were cooking meth in others people's houses that they were fumigating. So,
No, that's true.
all right, Nate, do you have one? You're muted. Unmute.
Sorry about that, Atlas. My puppy was being bad. So anyway, well, as much as I hate to bring it back up, it's something that I posted on my personal page earlier this week. Hateful note left on car. All you Islamophobe vets deserve to die. So there's an Iraq War veteran, Purple Heart recipient, came out to his vehicle to find an anonymous note left on his windshield that basically slammed him for his service and for going overseas, and portrayed himself and all veterans that have fought, overseas as bad guys, as just terrible people. And like I said, I found it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the gall on somebody that they would leave a random letter on a vehicle like that. I mean, it transcends being disrespectful or unappreciative of vets and what sacrifices they've made. It's like I would have loved to catch the guy pulling out the pen to write that letter. But to me, it's like, there's a lot of guys, especially the younger dudes, especially the guys leaving the service right now, that they have a very jaded view of the world. They have a very jaded view of America, and I don't blame them. I had a very similar views when I was younger, and coming home and kind of seeing where people's priorities were, or where people really stood. Everybody, like, that craze back in the day about like putting the "I support the troops" ribbons on the back of their vehicle. Like, one of my things was like, well, how do you support me? I see you got the ribbon. You bought the $2 magnet at the gas station. How do you support us, right? Well, I bought the magnet. That's that doesn't support anybody other than the person that owns a magnet company in China. But I don't know. I don't know if it's like the war has gone on too long, or people have lost their resolve, or there's just some really bad people, some really terrible human beings in our country that get to enjoy that blanket of protection that the military provides. But it just, there's a lot of guys out there that don't feel like they're appreciated, and nobody really cares what sacrifices they made. And I'm sure that's the thought that went through that gentleman's head when he found that note on his vehicle. It's just sad. It's just a terrible thing that I wouldn't want anybody to find, let alone one of America's war veterans. So.
Yeah, that's awful. Well, let's see here. There's a few to go with. Man interrupts marriage proposal to stop restaurant robbery. So this guy, Nicholas Anderson, decided to pop the question to his girlfriend at this restaurant. And just as he was getting down on like one knee to do it, a guy came in and robbed the restaurant. And as the robber was leaving, he was confronted by an employee, and that's when Anderson got up and took the robber out. And so yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, you think about it, like, the guy is kind of like, that was kind of the perfect time for that all to go down with the guy proposing. You're like, that's right, sweetie, you want to marry this badass? This is what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, maybe it was all set up.
Yeah, I mean, it might have worked to his advantage. She might have been like, well, I'm kind of on the fence here. I don't know if I'm ready to get married. And then she watched her boyfriend take this dude out, and that sealed the deal for him. I don't know. I'm just saying, it could have went a couple different ways. But good on the guy for hitting the pause button on a very significant life event to do the right thing. So that's a good dude right there.
So another real interesting one here is about it's an old story. I mean, it was just posted this week, I think, but about a test pilot back in 1966 in an SR-71 Blackbird that the plane disintegrated around him during a test flight, and he survived.
Yeah, I saw that article earlier today. Like ejected at the edge of space and lived.
Yeah.
Which is that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then he was back up and flying like a few weeks later.
Yeah, that's even the crazier part. That he was like, you know what? That's not going to stop me. This thing fell apart around me once at the edge of space, but let's give it another go. Why not? This the other article I was looking at, that the gun control advocates launched campaign to drop gun emoji from iPhones. You want to talk about a worthless cause? They say in an open letter to CEO Tim Cook, we realized that many Americans unknowingly carry a gun with them every day.
Oh my God.
The one that was given to them without a background check, the gun emoji. And then they go on to say that the gun emoji has taken root in our culture and digital conversations. Let's call on Apple to get rid of the virtual gun and publicly join our call for universal background checks on all gun sales. This is just... Like,
so wait, what if you just like you have like a piece of paper emoji in front of the gun emoji, so it's like, you know, the 4473 4473 emoji.
They apparently feel that it will show Congress that both gun-owning and non-owning Americans can come together to demand expanded background checks to include virtually all gun transfers. I'm sorry. Can we just stop the stupidity? I just want off. Stop the train.
My thing is, like, you know what? For stuff like this, like when these idiots pursue worthless goose chases like this is, and I wonder, like, you know what? Maybe this is like, I'd rather have them devote their time and energy pursuing something that's ridiculous than actually unifying to pursue something more impactful, something that can actually make a difference. You know what I mean? Like something that could actually be a negative to the gun, you know, the gun culture, the gun community, the Second Amendment.
Well, I don't disagree with the result you're trying to drive at with that statement. The fact that there are people out there that think that this is a worthwhile cause to invest their time in concerns me for the well-being of this country.
So one of the comments on that article is from my cold dead iPhone. All right. Well, if you'd like to support This Week in Guns through crowdfunding us through Patreon, go to patreon.com/week and pledge your support. Pledge $1 or $5 per episode. You can also pledge your support to the Firearms Radio Network Patreon at patreon.com/FRN. And Patriot Patch Company makes this episode possible. Head on over to patriotpatch.co to pre-order the Huckleberry patch now. That about wraps us up. So, Nate, what's going on? You're writing some articles, or not writing some articles?
Doing my thing, you know, doing my thing. Nothing new to report, really. Grip stops are continuing to ship out, so if you're interested in the best firearm accessory ever devised, you can go find yourself a grip stop.
Are those New York legal?
Yeah, actually they are. Yeah, the grip stop is 50 state legal because it's not a vertical grip, so there's really no regulation against it. It's not a hand stop and it's not a vertical grip. You know, it's its own entity. It's the grip stop, which is why so many people so shamelessly copy it and rip it off. But you know, so that's all I really got. You know, the grip stop's out there, so you can come follow me on Instagram under the handle grip stop. But more importantly, what is Adam Kraut up to these days? That's what I want to know.
Pissing in people's Cheerios. We're awaiting a decision out in Harrisburg for the right to know law request. So where that left off, I think last time, the Office of Open Records ordered the city to give the donor names for those that donated to the fund to defend Harrisburg's illegal gun laws, or they appealed that decision, so now we're in the court process, at least at the first level. We expect that we're either going to get an order in our favor for the disclosure of the names, and if not, we'll be appealing that, because we do believe that they should be disclosable. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to go down to the National Shooting Sports Foundation Import-Export Conference, where I got to sit at the same table as the NFA branch chief, Ted Clutter, and the Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division with Earl Griffith and Max Kindry and Michael Curtis. I had the opportunity to speak to them and ask them some questions. Along the realms of the NFA stuff, good news. They went from 9 to 26 examiners. They're looking at a goal of 90 days for turnaround on forms. They're right now about 120, so they are working diligently to reduce that wait time. And then for anybody who's in the industry, I want to get this out there. If you are trying to get a determination on a product prior to SHOT Show, have it in by September. They're taking 120 days to do the evaluations and issue determination letters, and they specifically said that if you submit something after that, they're not going to move you up just because you wanted a determination prior to SHOT. So there's your warning. If you're interested in any other news from the conference, it's available on the blog. The link to the article I wrote about that stuff is in the show notes. We also started 2 YouTube channels. The link to the federal one's in the show notes. There's some good information that my boss Josh put up there, especially in regards to forfeiture and surrendering under protest, especially given ATF and the 40mm grenade stuff that's going on. I'm sorry, chalk rounds or flares, not grenades. We don't get those. Otherwise, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is moose15. Check out some cool pictures of dogs, guns, and whatever else goes on in my life that I feel like putting up there for you to look at.
And you can follow me at Gun Guy Radio on Instagram. So going to show you really can get almost anything on Amazon except for toy guns. I searched. I'm gonna have to start selling the grip stop for you on Amazon, Nate, because I searched grip stop and this was one of the results. Dirty Girl Pole Dice, Organic Pole Dance Hand Grip Stops Sweating.
I don't know what that is, but I'm intrigued.
But I want to market it to that.
It's for applying to a stripper pole for pole dancers. It prevents perspiration for up to 8 hours. It's organic.
Well, that's an important part. It's organic. Is it made out of free-range dirt?
I don't know. I don't know. This makes me think of something that Peter Palmer would market.
No, Pete. Right. Pete's got some good stuff. There's a bunch of good stuff I've been working on with Pete right now. So
absolutely.
Here at the end of the summer, there's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming out from MS Cleans and some collaborative stuff I'm doing with Pete. So, but.
No, I only say that because I think we outed him as having a stripper pole in his room one episode. But maybe
it's 2015.
Yeah.
It's 2015. If Peter Anthony Palmer III wants to have a stripper pole in his apartment, the guy, hey, dude's a war hero. Okay, he can do what he wants.
Yeah, check out the MS Clean Kit 2.0. I guess they're about shipping those out to supporters of the was it Kickstarter?
Yeah, Kickstarter. Yeah,
okay.
I talked to Pete earlier this week. Actually, I think that's getting buttoned up right now as we speak. So it's going to be shipping pretty soon for him, and then we're going to be announcing something that we came up with together. So
awesome, cool. Looking forward to it. That about wraps up this week's show. You can leave your feedback by commenting on the bottom of the YouTube video you're watching or the bottom of the show notes at thisweekinguns.com/129. Leave us that iTunes review, and don't forget to shop our Amazon affiliate link when you're getting your pole dance organic perspiration lubricant, whatever. That wraps us up. Thank you, Nate.
Thanks for having me back, Jake.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for having me back, Jake.
And that's a wrap. We'll see you next week.